We keep hearing build resilience like it's some kind of magic armor founders are just supposed to put on. But what does that actually look like when your team is floundering, your inner critic won't shut up, and you just bombed a launch? Let's break it down. Welcome to Female Founder Unplugged, the show where we cut through the noise and have a real, raw conversation about what it takes to build and scale a successful business as a female entrepreneur. I'm Lindsay White, people strategy expert, leadership coach, and fellow founder. And I know firsthand the challenges of scaling sustainably and staying connected to your passion along the way. This podcast is for ambitious women just like you, seasoned founders and CEOs navigating the challenges of leadership, team building, and sustainable growth. In each episode, we'll dive into those topics that are most important to you as a female founder. You'll hear honest, no BS conversations about building, growing, and leading a team and culture so that you can grow without losing yourself in the process. Because let's be real, entrepreneurship can feel isolating, and leadership doesn't come with a roadmap. If you've ever struggled with the pressure of running a business, felt overwhelmed by growing your team, or wondered, how do I scale without sacrificing my vision and my purpose, you're in the right place. Let's get unplugged. You keep hearing it. You need to build resilience. It's a phrase. It's out there. We hear it all the time. It's as if it's some kind of checklist item you can just knock off between Zoom calls and payroll runs. But when you're staring down burnout, you're second guessing every decision, or you're wondering if you've completely screwed up your team culture, how do you actually do that? How do you actually build your resilience? Well, today I'm breaking down the truth about resilience, calling out that spicy saboteur voice, and sharing some real tools to build strength in yourself, in your team, and also in your business. So let's start by redefining what resilience is. It's really not as simple as just bouncing back like some motivational meme. Resilience really is about bouncing forward. It's about navigating through the tough stuff and choosing to rise anyways, and then keep on moving forward. And I really think about those of us that are female founders, we're entrepreneurs, we're business owners. And it is awesome that we look like we have it all together on the outside. Maybe you are at that 6 or 7 figure revenue range. You have a great team. You've built your brand. But behind the scenes, you're feeling pretty frazzled. You're spinning too many plates in the air. You're terrified of failing your team or your family or your vision. Maybe you recognize some of that in yourself. I certainly do. I got to tell you, I feel like this as well. And this is when we get into the situation where our resilience gets tested, because we are trying to keep all those plates spinning. We are trying to keep in touch with our family, keep connected to doing the things we love, those hobbies that we love that keep our cup full. And it is really tricky when we live in a bit of a pressure cooker, because we have responsibilities to our business and our team and our clients. We have responsibilities to our family and our friends and our community. And, when building those types of connections, when building the business, when building a family, inevitably we're going to fail. We're going to have moments where the plates fall. We're going to have moments where we stumble. We're going to have moments where we struggle to carry it. And it is what we do in those moments that is actually how we show our ability to be resilient. Now, I want to acknowledge that it can be really tricky. There's a lot of emotions that come when we have a failure, when we drop the ball, when the launch fails, when the client is unhappy, we've not produced what we were supposed to do. And I think it's really critical, and I want to call out that it is absolutely okay in that moment to feel all the feelings, because it's when we don't acknowledge those that they fester. It is okay in that moment to feel disappointed, to feel frustrated, to feel overwhelmed. What is not okay is to live that and stay in that and marinate in that. The resilience is about what we do after. You got to pick yourself up and you got to dust yourself off. We've all heard that before. Sometimes that's pretty hard, especially if it feels like we dropped a lot of plates or there's a lot of pressure in the cooker. And once we do that, it's really about how we bounce forward. How do we take those first few steps? How do we get back into our groove? Building resilience as a female founder isn't a luxury. It's a requirement if we want to lead without losing ourselves, if we want to be able to experiment and learn and grow. And inevitably in that space, we're going to have things that don't work. And that's okay. It's about how we bounce forward, how we move through those pieces and we take those first few next steps. That's about resilience.
This is exactly the kind of work we do in the LPC Accelerator program because, of course, the L stands for leadership. And if we're not working on ourselves as a leader, if we're not preparing ourselves to lead at that next level, to be the CEO in our own business, we are not doing our business any favors. So if you are ready to do this work and you are ready for a program where you get to do some one-on-one, have some great strategies, find the right tools, and be a part of the right community, the LPC Accelerator might be the right program for you. Registration is open now. You can check out all of the great details in the link below and send me a DM if you have any questions.
So let's get spicy here for a moment because your saboteur, that mean inner voice, she's pretty loud and she's very persistent. Ironically, she sounds probably a lot like someone that you've known in your past, whether it might be your own voice, maybe it's one of your parents, maybe it's a teacher. But here's the truth. That voice in your head, she is a liar. She is a total liar. She is not your boss. She is not your CEO. She is 100% the voice of fear. She is the voice of past experiences. She's the voice that tells you to stay safe and play small. And when we can build our resilience and we can start to bounce back and bounce forward, we have to recognize first that voice, that saboteur conversation. And we have to choose consciously not to listen to it. We're going to hit the mute button on that saboteur conversation. We're not going to let that nasty little voice in our head win. We're not going to let it lead. That's one of the very important first steps. And if you've listened to the show, you know that I love to talk about positive intelligence. We talk about building mental fitness. And it is in having those strong mental muscles, we can shut down that saboteur conversation. We can hear it. We can acknowledge it. Where's it coming from? Well, we really wanted that launch to go well. We really feel passionately about that product or that service. Listen, and I want to just say, I get that. I've had failed launches too. But the saboteur is trying to tell us, well, we should just give up. Nobody's going to listen. Nobody wants to buy from us. Nobody wants to participate with us. We want to shut that down. That's where we build the mental muscles to hit the mute button on that negative conversation. And we develop our sage brain, our sage superpowers. This is the wise, grounded part of ourself that always knows that failure is just a round of feedback. It's just some data that we need to collect. It's just a lesson that we needed to learn. It's not good or bad. It just is. And it's not the end of the world. So the next time you mess up, just acknowledge the feelings. Say thank you for the experience and the learning and growth. Your saboteur may be screaming, but your sage knows that this is a moment of real change for you. And it, again, is the resilience building moment because we learn and we grow, we get up, we bounce forward. So for you, one of the first things to do to build your resilience is really to start with your mental fitness. Just take 5 minutes a day. Do some box breathing, right? In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Do that 5 times. It'll be a complete reset for your nervous system. It will quiet that conversation in your head. Focus on the breathing. If you've been through positive intelligence, do your PQ reps. Find that grounding ritual. Those are the things you need to start hitting the mute button on that conversation in your head, that nasty, nasty little saboteur. And then you can start to set some boundaries, not walls, but strong fences that are going to protect your energy, right? And that's so important to how we build resilience is that we create really firm boundaries so it doesn't get tested in the first place. And one of the other things you might want to consider is doing some journaling, right? Really asking yourself and processing some really key questions. One of the most important ones, what's the worst that can happen? I know it sounds simple, but your saboteur is trying to convince you that everything is catastrophically bad all the time, that it's going to fail. Well, what if you just ask what's the worst that can happen? And then follow that question with what's the likelihood of that? Usually it's less than 2%, right? It's almost always survivable, right? And it's always a chance for you to evolve, for you to learn and grow. And if you can work your way through these steps, build your mental fitness, make sure you got great boundaries, strong, and then really spend some time journaling or thinking about what's the worst that can happen and what's the likelihood of that, that is going to help you build your resilience. And then for your team, make more space for psychological safety. And I know this is a real buzzword, but it's true. You need to make space for your team to be able to acknowledge mistakes in a place where it's really okay to fail and it's really okay to learn from that. There can't be any fear. So if we can create a culture in our teams where people are able to experiment and then take the data from that and grow, that's amazing. That really builds resilience. When we know we can fail and we know we can keep going. What you need to do for your team is lead with transparency. Show your resilience journey. Talk about when you screwed it up and how you recovered. That actually helps others, most importantly your team, but other people in your community. It helps them see what resilience looks like. And then create some rituals that honor the recovery, right? Make sure you're shouting out and acknowledging lessons learned. Make sure that you are really celebrating people when they bounce back, not just when they win, because that's how we continue to show and demonstrate what resilience really is. Your team can only be as resilient as you are and as the culture you create. So it is absolutely crucial that you lead in this space. All right. It's also super important that we reframe failure because let's be honest, it's inevitable. Failure is going to happen. It's going to be a part of your business. And no matter how we frame it, it is a reality. A launch is going to tank. A new hire doesn't work out. A client leaves. And this doesn't mean that you are a failure. It means you're growing and you're learning. So I want you to try this exercise. Write down your biggest fear right now and hit pause if you need to. Then I want you to write down everything that could happen if it came true. And then I want you to ask yourself, what would I do next? How would I recover? Who would help me? You'll probably find out that even in your worst case scenario, it's not the end. It's just a bend in the road. And that's what's really important is we need to remind ourselves and we need to show our team and remind our team that failure isn't the end. It's just a new beginning. Well, my friends, if this episode really hit home for you, here's what I want you to do. I want you to download my free Resilience Reboot Toolkit. We'll put a link in the show notes for you. It's packed with tools to build resilience for you and your team. I would love for you to send me a DM featuring your latest failure story and how you reframed it. Send me your stories. Let's normalize growth. And also, share this episode with one fellow founder who needs a reminder that her inner critic is not the boss. And remember, you're not weak for needing resilience. You're wise for building it. So let's lead with power, presence, and peace.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Female Founder Unplugged. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Connect with me on Instagram @HighVoltLeadership and send me your questions or let me know your biggest takeaway. Looking for more strategies on scaling your business, building a powerhouse team, or leading with confidence? Head over to highvoltageleadership.ca or follow me on LinkedIn for exclusive content, resources, and special offers just for listeners. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and remember, the real magic happens when you're unplugged.